ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our Saturday morning session. Today we will start on chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita, which is called Vibhuti Yoga. Here Lord Krishna is going to explain the various manifestation of the Almighty which are visible, which are tangible, which we can sense with our sense organs. He did it little bit in chapter 7, but that was a very, I would say, cursory reference to them. But in this chapter, he will refer to a variety of manifestations which we can experience with our sense organs in the world. So this chapter is actually very, very significant because when we read the first two verses, we will realize the importance of this chapter. So let us start with the verse number 1. श्री भगवान बोले, हे महाभाव, फिर से मेरे परम रहस्य और प्रभाव युक्त वचन सुन, जिससे मैं तुझे अतिशय प्रेम रखने वाले के लिए हित की इच्छा से कहूंगा. Now, if you recall the first two verses of chapter 7, Lord Krishna used similar language and he said that I am going to reveal you the secret of all mysteries. The word which he has used here, मैं तेरे लिए इस विज्ञान सहित तत्व ज्ञान को संपूर्णता से कहूंगा, जिसको जानकर संसार में फिर कुछ भी जानने के योग्य शेष नहीं रह जाता. Now, after revealing that in chapter 7, now he is using another terminology here, which is called Param Vachan. भूये ए महाभावो श्रृणु में परम वचः, परम वचन सुन. Now, Param Vachan kya hai? That is very important to understand. You see, they could be Satya Vachan, they could be Asatya Vachan. Satya Vachan is the one which we can verify, we can examine, and our intellect will find that this is true. So that is subject to our intellectual examination. And we can see whether it is true or not. Asatya is also subject to the examination. We can find it is true or not. We can again put that to the test. Our intellectual can dissect and examine all that and can decide whether it is true or not. But what is Param Vachan? Now, Param Vachan goes beyond Satya and Asatya, beyond the verifiable power of our intellect. These vachans cannot be verified. Like somebody says कि परमात्मा exist करता है, दूसरा आदमी कहता है परमात्मा exist नहीं करता. There is a debate between those who believe in Almighty, those who do not believe. And everybody will have his or her arguments. And it is not easy to bypass them. They will all come with certain fantastic arguments, and we have seen books written on these subjects. And you cannot reach a conclusion logically on them. So Param Vachan is the one which goes beyond logic, which goes beyond rationality, which goes beyond human intellect. So I can call it, as I use these two words, insensible and unintelligible, aspects of our existence. So this is what the Param Vachan is. Param Vachan is basically the thing which is which has been used, or the words which have been used to explain things which are not knowable. संस्कृत में अगर कहें तो अज्ञेय जो चीज है, ज्ञात है और अज्ञेय है। जो चीज अज्ञेय है, जिसको जाना नहीं जा सकता, उसको एक्सप्लेन करने के लिए परम वचन कहा गया है। So param vachan is the one which actually you have to believe based on your trust and dedication. And that cannot be said to the people who do not have complete trust and faith. That is why Lord Krishna never said these words before. Now he must have realized that Arjuna is having total trust and faith in him, and therefore he says, he has also used another word, atishay prem rakhne wale. Prem means that he is now trusting the Lord Krishna fully, and therefore he is in a position to reveal him certain things which cannot be revealed ordinarily. And this is regarding again things which are not verifiable with intellectual prowess, intellectual power, intellectual thinking, arguments, rationality. It goes beyond that. So this is what Param Vachan is. So Param Vachan is extremely important. It is, I would call it, it is the deepest mysteries of existence, which have been explained here. So let's go to verse number 2 now. So verse number 2, मेरी उत्पत्ति को अर्थात लीला सहित प्रकट होने को न देवता लोग जानते हैं न महर्षि ही जानते हैं, क्योंकि मैं सब प्रकार से देवताओं का और महर्षियों का भी आदि कारण हूं. Now, before we understand this verse, I would like to explain that, for example, I can never understand the birth of my parents or grandparents or their parents because they were born before me. I have been told that so and so was born on so and so date and he was your father or she was your mother. So you have to accept that. You have no way to verify that. The intellectual prowess which we have cannot enable us to verify that process. So this happens with all activities in our life. Similarly, Lord Krishna is saying here the word which has never been used by him before, that देवता भी मेरे को नहीं जानते हैं और महर्षि भी नहीं जानते हैं, क्योंकि मैं उनसे पहले उत्पन्न हुआ, उनका आदि कारण हूं. Now, how can you know the cause which happened before your birth? The Devatas came much after. The Maharshis came much after. So there is no way for them to understand the birth of the Almighty. And this is what he wants to explain here, that he is the primal cause. Everything started with him. And therefore, whatever came afterwards, they can have no way to verify the knowledge about my, existence and my arrival in this universe. That is not possible. So this is a very profound statement, and this is not subject to verification. It is again, if we want to try and explore the origin of this universe, we can never do that. It is not possible. We can only speculate. We can only do certain conjectures. We can only think about it, but there is no way we can have proper knowledge about the birth of this universe. That is not possible. Like our son cannot have any experience about my birth, similarly, I can have no experience about the birth of this universe. So the questions we raise, the questions which are raised by the science and the intellectuals about the birth of the universe, about the origin of the universe, can never be answered properly, can never be, verified by anybody. There you have to accept the words of the supreme power. And that is why Shruti is extremely important, because Shruti, which has been uttered by the Almighty Himself, explains these primal causes. And that is what we have to accept. This is what Lord Krishna is saying here, that even the Devtas, the divinities, even the great rishis of this country or anywhere else do not understand my birth, because they came into this universe much after I did. And I am the original cause for all their birth, and therefore it is not possible for them to understand me. And this is what Lord, in fact, the Upanishads have also said, particularly the Mandukya Upanishad, that there is no way we can understand the origin of the universe through our intellectual prowess. We have to accept it as given. We have to take the words of the Almighty for that as given, because we were not present at that time. Like our children accept the accept the birth of their parents as given, or we accept the birth of our parents as given. We can have no means to verify those births and those appearances. This is what Lord Krishna is saying, and this is possible only when you have Shraddha, when you have total surrender to the Almighty. If you start questioning things intellectually, then you cannot accept this kind of statement. So, this is where Lord Krishna is starting his Param Vachan. Param Vachan, as explained earlier, it is to explain the things which are unexplainable, which are unintelligible, which are अज्ञेय. उन चीजों को जो अज्ञेय हैं उनको व्यक्त करने के लिए परम वचन कहा गया है. एंड परम वचन बेसिकली मीन्स बियॉन्ड the scrutiny of our intellectual prowess. It goes beyond that. We have to accept it as given. So this is what Lord Krishna starts this chapter with. Now next verse. जो मुझको अजन्मा अर्थात वास्तव में जन्म रहित अनादि लोकों का महान ईश्वर तत्व से जानता है, वह मनुष्यों में ज्ञानवान पुरुष पापों से मुक्त हो जाता है. Now here he re-emphasizes the same thing again as he mentioned in verse number 2, that those people who accept him as Ajanma, that is, he was never born, or he was Swambhu, whatever we call it, and he is the ultimate truth of the entire existence. सब लोगों का महान ईश्वर means whatever existence we can see in this universe, he is the origin of all that. इस चीज को जो जान लेता है, the person who knows all this in its fundamental truth, then he is completely given rid of all the pap or all the wrong things he has done in his life. Now how? Okay, we can accept that Almighty is, he is Adi, he has no birth, and he is the cause of everything which exists. But how will this resolve you of the wrong activities you have done? What is the relationship there? This is very important to understand. The relationship is not direct. The relationship is indirect. Because once you know that the Almighty is the Supreme Lord, He is the cause of all causes, He is the primal cause of entire existence, then you surrender to Him automatically. then you feel that your existence is absolutely nothing. It's not even a drop in the ocean. Because when you look at this whole universe has been created by this great power. And if that power is the cause of this universe, I am not even a small particle of dust in that. And that realization will ultimately guide you to the right path. Then we will feel that we are nowhere in this universe. Our existence is basically, you know, signifies nothing. Billions and trillions and, quintillions of factors are operating in this universe. We are practically nothing. Now, to understand this, I would like to uh, give a few examples. The first example is we have to understand the difference between Khand and Akhand. What is Khand and what is Akhand in Sanskrit? With our sense organs, we always have a tendency to see things in divided form. Like if I look at somebody, I will look at his hand or his mouth or his eyes or his nose or his legs. I will look at them differently. Those are actually visible to me as parts, separate parts. I do not see the whole body together because the parts don't exist, the body exists actually. But to my mind, to my sense organs, I can only see the parts. So I have the tendency to see the part, that is, we are seeing things in Khand. Like when you look at this universe, we see a tree, we see an animal walking, we see a house, we see a human being going around, we see a motorbike, and then we see a road, and we see a village and town. We always have a tendency to see them separately. Now that is called Khand. Now, if we look at holistic view of this, then we will realize a different picture altogether. Like I am walking, but I am walking on what? Walking on the earth. If the earth does not exist, I cannot walk. I cannot even stand there. Now, earth is there because there is a solar system. Now, solar system in which the earth moves and the sun, keeps the entire system together. Because of that, the solar system keeps me together, or keeps me walking, or keeps me standing, or keeps me even alive, because without sunlight, I can't be even alive. And then the solar system exists because there's a larger galaxy. The galaxy keeps the solar system intact. And then the larger galaxy is surviving in some other bigger galaxy. So if we look at the holistic picture, you will realize that the whole universe is completely interconnected. This is called Ang. This is not called part. It is called, Akhand. If the sun disappears tomorrow, I will disappear immediately after that. The earth will disappear immediately after that. If the galaxy disappears, then the sun will disappear, the earth will disappear, nothing will exist. So everything is interconnected. This is Akhand. And that is what Lord Krishna has said in the previous two verses, that I am the cause of all causes for the entire existence of this universe. That whole thing is totally, in one particular dimension, that whole thing is existing. And this is what we can understand if we understand the difference between Khand and Akhand. Akhand gives us the sense of totality, that whole of this existence is one single unit, and I am existing because this entire existence is existing. And then we think differently. Then we think that whole existence is part of me, and I cannot destroy anything which is there. If we look at Khand, then we try to exploit the nature, we try to take out the minerals, the entire Environmental degradation is happening because we look at the kant. We don't look at the totality. So this is one reason why these verses are important. Now I would like to summarize a few things to give a greater picture or better picture of this thing. To understand that, I'll take the example of Akash. Now, Akash, these are some of the fundamental truths which we have learned so far in Bhagavad Gita, and which will continue to be, on our side when we proceed further on, other chapters of this great text. Now, the first thing is the Akash sab jagah vyapt hai. This I don't call it sky because that is not the correct English version. I'll use the word Akash. Akash is existing everywhere. Without Akash, nothing else can exist. The sun cannot exist, the moon cannot exist, the earth cannot exist, I cannot exist. Because of the Akash, everything which we see in this universe is existing. Akash provides the theater for the operation. That is first thing we have to understand. Now, without the existence of Akash, nothing can exist. Therefore, the Akash has to have its origin before every other origin. Before the sun comes into existence, the Akash has to exist. Before the moon comes into existence, the Akash has to exist. Therefore, the first origin is that of Akash, and that is what Lord Krishna is saying, that I originated first. Therefore, the Devtas and the Rishis, they cannot understand me because my origin is before everything else. And this is what the sun and the moon and the earth cannot understand the origin of this universe because the Akash came before them. Akash has to exist to provide, existence to each one of them. So this is one region. Without Akash, there is no existence. Akash has to come first before anything else comes. Number one. Number two, the Akash does nothing. It does nothing. It just remains as it is. It is exactly the same way the Almighty does nothing. But without the existence of Akash, nothing can come into existence. Similarly, without the existence of the Almighty, nothing can come into existence. So the Akash is doing nothing, it is just existing. The very existence of Akash becomes the cause of all other existences. Similarly, the very existence of the Almighty becomes the cause of all other existences. The Akash is doing nothing. What you do in Akash? You can construct a city, you can construct a high-rise building, you can do this, you can do that, and you can undo them. The Akash remains unaffected. You construct a city today, there was an earthquake yesterday, the Akash remains unaffected. Whether you have a 200-story building or you don't have it, Akash is not impacted. So all kinds of happenings are happening in this Akash, but Akash is unaffected completely. That's the third fact. Now, similarly, the Almighty, or we can call it universal consciousness, or whatever name we give, is not impacted by the existence of this universe. Lot of things are happening in this universe, but he remains unaffected. He remains as it is without any alteration, any change. So that is very important. Like Akash remains unaffected. You construct a building, you construct four walls of a house, you construct a toilet, you construct a go down, or you construct a city, and then you demolish. Akash remains completely unaffected. Hmm? Similarly, the Almighty remains unaffected irrespective of whatever is happening in this universe. So that is the third very important point, which we should understand how this universe operates. Now, the next point is that in this Akash, we keep doing things and undoing things. That is our what you call decision. For example, we create a house, or we demolish a house, or we, you know, create a toilet, or we demolish a toilet. We create a city, or we create a road, or we plant a tree, or whatever we do. It is our decision. So in this, that is the freedom we have. We have the freedom to do certain things and not to do certain things. This freedom is available to us, and this is what we call the human will. Now, human will is not impacted by Akash. Akash doesn't tell you do this and don't do this. It gives you the space. If you want to do, you do. If you don't want to do, you don't do. So that is the difference between the Almighty and the humans. We have this will, we have this freedom to act. Now that decision is ours, how to act, what to act, when to act, in what manner to act. So that is the freedom we have. Now, next point, the fifth point. Because of this action and freedom, because of all the things which we do, we can call the theory of karma coming into existence. इसको कह सकते हैं कि ये संसार कर्म की खेती है. Whatever जो आप बोएंगे वो ही पाएंगे. So in this Akash, whatever you do, you will reap the harvest. If you do agriculture and plant nice trees, you will get those beautiful, wonderful fruits out of those trees. But if you want to have all kinds of, obstructive plants, and want to put all these thorns around, you can do that also. So you have that freedom, but you have to reap the harvest of your own karma. So the field is provided to you. You have the action to do or not to do, or what to do, but the outcome you have to take care. जो कर्म करोगे उसका फल आपको भोगना पड़ेगा. ये संसार कर्म की खेती है. जो बोए सो पाए. जैसे आप बोओगे वैसा आपको मिलेगा. So these are some of the fundamental truths of our existence. Now, one or two more truths about these two verses. The other truth is that this entire Akash is without any quality. The science cannot define Akash because it has no color, it has no shape, it has no smell, it has no quality. Like water flows, you can see water, it has, it has the tendency, with the heat it goes up and becomes water vapor, forms cloud. It flows downwards all the time. Air has the quality of blowing and touching you, but Akash has no quality. There's one quality of Akash, that is the sound, but I'll deal with that separately, because I'm comparing here Akash with the Almighty, but Almighty is actually beyond Akash. There's another step. So it is beyond that, but for our simplicity, we are taking Akash as the Almighty, and in fact, in some Upanishads, the word Akash has been used for Almighty. So Akash has no quality, but we can create quality inside Akash. Like we can create a house, 4 walls we construct, and it becomes a house. Then the quality is created. We create a matka, you create a round shaped thing, and it becomes a matka. This is quality we create in this Akash. Or we plant a tree and a tree comes in, the quality comes in the Akash. So the Akash has no quality, but All qualities can be created in this Akash. And we are, you know, observing those qualities all around. In this Akash, you see the quality of the sun and the quality of the moon and the quality of the earth and the human beings and the animals and, the marine life and all that. Variety of things we see in this Akash. It all flows from Akash, though Akash has no quality of its own. So this is what we have to understand those two verses of chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita. Everything originates, the the Almighty is like Akash, which provides us the space to exist, which is the origin of everything, which also gives us the free will to operate. And we operate and we take the consequences of that free will. And the Almighty is without any gunas, nirgun, without any qualities, without any characteristics. But all the qualities come from there. They originate from there. So this is the kind of explanation we need to understand. To understand the first two verses of this chapter. And once we are clear on that, the first thing is that khand and akhand, that we have to start looking at things in totality, not partially one by one. Like we look at the human body as totality, we cannot separate our hand from our eyes and our mind and our legs. They are all total, they work together in coordination. As soon as you think of drinking water, your hand goes to the glass of water. It works in a coordination, it works in totality. So we have to understand this totality, and not only of our body alone, but of the entire existence. That is one thing, khand and akhand. We have the tendency, because mind has the tendency to divide things. The sense organs don't have the capability to look at the totality. They only look at a part of the reality, not the totality. And therefore, we have this tendency to divide things one another. This is me, this is you, this is earth, this is moon. So we do not see them in totality. So the first thing we have to understand is, if we start looking at the totality, then things would change. Then our thinking process would change. The second is that the whole Akash has been given to us. Without Akash, nothing can exist. So Akash is like the Almighty. Without him, nothing can exist. But once the Akash is available, then the moon can exist and the solar system can exist and the sun can exist and the earth can exist and variety of life can exist. So all that is possible only when the Akash is available. So the Akash enables us to have all these varieties. Then the Akash does not do anything, but everything happens in the Akash. And because of that, without Akash, nothing can happen. The sun cannot rise and set. The earth cannot be fertile. We cannot walk. I cannot even exist. But it is possible only when Akash is there. So these are certain mysteries which we can understand with even with our limited intellectual capability and our sense organs. So this is why I'm taking this example of Akash to explain these two verses of this chapter. Now there was a question: how do we, surrender ourselves? In fact, Tarun asked this question in the very beginning before we started our, talk today. That how do we surrender in totality? That was the last three verses of chapter 9. So it is important to deal with that also briefly. Now, how do we know? Now, we look at a seed. A seed has a potential to grow into a large tree. For example, take a banyan seed. It can grow into a banyan tree. It can have big branches. It can have leaves. It can have, flowers. It can give birth to many things. But how is it possible? When it is possible? It is possible only when the seed is ready to destroy itself. Unless the seed is destroyed, the tree will not appear. In order that for the tree to appear, the seed must destroy itself. You put the seed into the earth, it completely gets disrupted. Out of that comes a plant. Out of that comes leaves, and then comes branches, and then comes flowers, and then comes fruits. All that is possible only when the seed is destroyed. So similarly, the human being can attain great heights. It can attain, it can become like a big banyan tree only when he is ready to destroy himself. That is to destroy his own existence, that is ego. If we are ready to surrender totally through destruction of our ego, then there is a tremendous potential which can be achieved. And that potential is like a big tree which gives you flowers and fruits and beautiful shade and great leaves and firewood. Everything is provided only after the seed is destroyed. Similarly, we can do the same thing only when we are ready to get rid of our ego. The ego has to disappear. Then we can reach that stage where we can fructify into a big banyan tree, and we can provide, a lot of fruits and shade and firewood and everything to the humanity. So this is another point which I thought I will deal with, though it was not directly related to the verses which we are, you know, trying to understand today. So just to go back to these two verses, we can never understand the existence or the birth of the Almighty because all that came much before we did. Like we can never understand the birth of our grandfather or his father because they came before us. In that situation, we have to take that as given, and we have to accept the words of somebody else in that respect. That is the first truth we must understand. And therefore, those people who question the birth of this and that and existence of Almighty, they are acting out of little knowledge. Their knowledge is not good enough, not deep enough. They are just trying to throw away what we call questions on the others to prove that they have a great intellectual power. But that is not intellectual power, this is intellectual poverty, because they don't have the depth, and those questions are irrelevant because this whole existence came into being much before we did, and therefore we have to take it as given, and we have to take the words and the uttered by the Almighty in this respect. And that is what Lord Krishna is telling to Arjuna here, that जो अब तुम मेरे को अतिशय प्रेम कर रहे हो, तुम मेरे प्रति श्रद्धालु बन चुके हो, सो मैं तुम्हें परम वचन कह सकता हूँ। और उस परम वचन में पहला वचन यह है कि मेरे जन्म को कोई नहीं समझ सकता, न देवता न ऋषिगण, कोई नहीं समझा न समझ पाएगा, क्योंकि मैं उनका भी आदि कारण हूँ। सो दिस इज वन फंडामेंटल ट्रूथ which we have to understand. And the second truth is that because of him, everything else is existing, which I explained in detail by giving the example of Akash and the rest of the existence. And, this explains that the Almighty is providing us the foundation for entire existence. He does nothing, but because of his existence alone, everything is existing. He has no qualities, but because of him, all the qualities come into existence. And he gives us the freedom to behave or to conduct ourselves in this large existence. And because of that reason, we have to take the consequences of our action. We have to reap the harvest of what we sow during our this process of action. So this is what in totality these two verses mean. And then we have to understand the difference between khand and akhand, and we start thinking in terms of akhand, then our thinking process would completely change. We understand the entire existence as one single entity. So I think I will stop here today because these are very profound verses, and we have to meditate a little bit on each one of them and stop questioning certain things which we have been questioning all through our lives, that certain things cannot be questioned. Those questions don't come out of intellectual prowess, but they come out of lack of depth, lack of understanding of the real nature of things. Once we understand the real nature of things, these questions will automatically disappear. So thank you very much. Now, if you have any questions on this issue, I will try to explain them. And let us be clear on this issue that uh, existence of everything in this universe is possible only because of the existence of that Almighty, irrespective of the name we give to Him. We may call it Him Ram or Krishna or Allah or Jesus Christ, or it doesn't matter, or even nature. It doesn't matter. But we are referring to the supreme power which came into existence here, and because of his existence, everything became possible.